Hey! So you are thinking about buying a home in 2023, but you're not sure where to begin and you don't know what the process looks like. In this video, I'm going to go over step by step what the process of buying a home in 2023 looks like in Austin, Texas, so you know what to expect when you are ready to go. Make sure to watch this video all the way to the end because I'm going to share something with you that's completely different than it was a couple years ago that could save you $10,000, $20,000, $40,000. Also, make sure to watch this video all the way through because I'm going to be sharing with you 4 very important questions that I get asked by home buyers all the time. If this is your first time on my channel and you want to stay updated on everything Austin, Texas real estate related, make sure to click the subscribe button and the notification button so you can be the first to know on everything that is going on real estate related in Austin, Texas. I'm Daphne Quay, your boss lady realtor, and I work with people from all over the country and all over the world who are relocating to Austin, buying homes in Austin, and selling homes in Austin. If you are thinking about making a move, you can always reach out. You can call, text, email, send me an Instagram DM, or you can set up a Zoom call directly one-on-one with me. Just check out the description below. Buying a home in today's market is completely different than it was in 2020, 2021, and 2022. There's more inventory, higher interest rates, and less competition. These are all things that of course come into play when you are either in the process of selling or buying a home. So I'm gonna dive in and tell you what the process looks like step by step. If you've been following my channel for a while, you've likely seen other videos that I've done about the home buying process. Those other videos I posted was when the market was at its absolute peak and it was really difficult to get a home in Austin. Let me tell you, things have changed, thank goodness, and there is a ton of opportunity now. Step 1 in buying a home will always be getting pre-approved. Talk to a local bank or a local lender and see what you can be approved for. That's basically telling you what your budget is going to be. Most people generally have a good idea of what price range they need to be in, but of course getting approved solidifies that, and it tells the seller that we are serious once we find a home that you want to make an offer on. Step 2, let's set up a consultation call where we talk about what you're looking for, what neighborhoods you're hoping to be in, what your lifestyle is like, and what your ideal home looks like. From there, we talk about the home buying process and what to expect depending on what your needs are. Once we've been approved and we set up our consultation call, the next thing is we start looking at homes. Step 3 is looking at homes. Once you've gotten pre-approved and we have set up our consultation call, then we can start looking at homes. A lot of times I have clients that send me homes that they've seen online that they like, and then I will send them options that I've seen that I think would be a good fit based on the criteria that we talked about. And this brings me to my first question that clients ask me all the time, which is how many homes will we look at before I find the right home? The thing is, it does vary for people. Generally speaking, I've found in my experience, my clients will typically look at between 6 to 12 homes before deciding on one. I read a statistic one time that said 85% of people will actually find their home the first time that they go out to look. And I feel like, based on my experience and in this point in history, I feel like that's pretty accurate because we have access to so much. I want to say basically all home buyers look online for months before making a decision. So they really have that time to educate themselves on what they like, what they don't like, what areas they might like, and the style of home that would work best for them. So by the time we actually go look at homes, they typically have a pretty good idea of what's going to be a good fit. So it's not too uncommon that on day 1, if we go out and look at 6 homes, they're probably going to buy one of the 6. It happens a lot more than you would think. Now, on the other side of that, if you're looking at more than 12 homes and you're finding yourself looking at like 20 or 30 homes, realistically, you're probably not ready to buy. When I have a client that wants to look at tons of homes and won't make up their mind, we really need to sit down again and have another conversation about what's actually important and if now is actually a good time for them. So if you're suffering from massive analysis paralysis, it's probably not the time for you to buy a home. That brings us to step 4, which is submitting an offer. When we submit an offer, we go over comparables in the neighborhood to see what homes in that neighborhood are selling for and what an appropriate offer price would be. From there, we draft up the offer documents. They are sent to you for digital signatures. Then the documents come back to me and I send them to the selling party. If we submit an offer in the morning, typically we hear back same day, if not the following day. I try to keep in touch with the selling agent as much as I can, so we set an expectation for what our timeline could potentially look like. After writing an offer comes step 5, we come to an agreement. A seller could counter our offer, they could turn it down, or they just could accept it as is. Depending on what the market's doing and depending on how long the home has been on the market, it's very possible that we can push really hard to get the deal that we want. Like I mentioned, our housing market has changed a lot from what it was in 2020 and 2022. 2022. So now if a home is sitting on the market for a while, we can typically try to negotiate on price and terms. That brings us to our next common buyer question, which is it possible to find a home the first time we go look at homes? Basically, the answer is yes. I answered that pretty much in the previous question. It happens a lot more than you think. And I think a lot of home buyers are actually really surprised at how quickly the process goes. You can typically find a home within a week or two, or even the first day that you go out and look at homes, and you can be closed within 21 to 30 days. The process in Texas is super fast. I think unlike other parts of the country, it can take a couple months. In Texas, it moves along very quickly. Step number 6, we have a contract execution date. What does that mean? The execution date is basically the date that everybody signs the contract and everybody comes to agreement. Now for round numbers, let's just say we all come to an agreement and sign the contract on June 1st. That is our execution date, which brings us to point number 7. Earnest and option money. So once we have an executed contract, we have 72 hours to submit 2 checks. The first check is called earnest money. That's 1% of the sales price, and that goes to a title company, and they hold that until closing. So let's say you're buying a $600,000 home, that's going to be $6,000. The second check is called option money. Option money is money that we give to the seller to buy anywhere from 5 to 7 days to do our inspection and any other negotiations. Option money buys you an option period, which like I said, can be 5 to 7 days. For this example, we'll say it's 7 days, and it can usually run anywhere from about $300 to $600. If everything goes as planned and we end up closing, then the option money and the earnest money are credited back to you at closing. Let's say for some reason we're in the option period and some pretty big ticket items come up in the inspection and the seller is not willing to repair them or give a credit. We can terminate the contract for literally any reason and you will get your earnest money back if it's within those 7 days. Now let's say the option period has passed. It's been 7 days. We're now at day 9 or 10 and you just decide you don't want to buy the home anymore for whatever reason. You can terminate the contract, but the seller gets to keep your earnest money. In this example, it was $6,000. Realistically, this doesn't happen very often. There's not a lot of reasons as to why it would. But since we're talking about the process of buying a home in Texas, that's something to note. This brings us to step 8, which is inspections and negotiations. In Austin, buyers are expected to get their own inspector and do their own inspections. I have a list of inspectors that I trust that I always pass along to my clients so they can talk to them and see who they would like to use. We always like to schedule out the inspection within the first few days of the option period so that we have room to negotiate. Things that we're going to look for in an inspection are big ticket items like the foundation, roof, electric, plumbing, structural issues. We want to make sure that the home is sound. Depending on the situation, there typically is also room to negotiate other items. Let's say the home needs a new AC system. That is a bigger item, but I've been able to get my clients new AC systems before or get them a credit so they can have it repaired after closing. It's possible that we could find termites. It's not as common in Texas, but it does happen. Obviously, these are things that we want the seller to take care of before you close on your new home. And this point brings me to our third question that I get asked all the time. Buyers always ask me, how much room do we have to negotiate on repairs? And again, it just really depends on the house and the situation. Let's say it's a pretty new house that's only a couple years old and we're the only offer on the table. It's been on the market for like 6 months and it needs a new roof for some reason, which is possible because we get storms sometimes. And let's say the seller doesn't want to get a new roof. There's a couple things we could do here. We could push really hard and threaten to walk away from the contract until they agree. We could take it as is, which I never recommend, or we could just walk away from the contract. Like I said, there's a lot of variables and it really depends on the situation. If we're looking at a home that's a little bit older and let's say it needs more cosmetic work than actual structural work and the seller isn't willing to, repaint a wall, we have to ask ourselves, are we really willing to lose this home because of a small cosmetic item, right? So it's just lots of variables and it really depends. When it comes to pricing on homes, I typically tell my client if a home has been on the market for a long time, anywhere from I'd say 60 to 120 days, then we can negotiate all sorts of things. Step number 9 is appraisal. When you are financing a home from a bank or a lender, the lender always sends out a third party called the appraiser. The appraiser's job is to take a look at the home and make sure that it is worth the money that they are lending you. For example's sake, let's say you are buying this home for $600,000. The appraiser will go out to the home, they'll take photos, they'll take measurements and compare it to other homes in the neighborhood. One of 3 things can happen. They can say, yes, this home is worth $600,000, we're good to go, you can close. And that's that. That's great. The other thing which could happen, which would be awesome, is that the appraiser goes out, they take a look at the home, and they think it's worth more than what you are paying for it. So again, using the example of the $600,000 home, they'll go out, take a look, and they'll say, I think this home is worth $630,000, which is fantastic. That means we have $30,000 in equity. Nothing changes for you as the buyer. You're still paying $600,000. We close, and that's that. The other thing that can happen and was happening all the time in 2021 and 2022 is that the appraiser would go out to the home, take a look, and say this home is worth a lot less than what you were buying it for. And a very real example, let's say we're buying this home for $600,000. It wasn't totally uncommon back in 21 and 22 for the appraisal to come back at $500,000, $515,000. And in a normal market, if the appraisal comes in low, we can typically try to renegotiate the price with the selling party, or walk away from the contract if they're not willing to renegotiate with us. And this is the main golden point that I asked you guys to watch too at the beginning of the video. The thing about the appraisals now is that buyers do have that power to renegotiate if homes come in undervalued. Granted, it doesn't happen very often, but before, when homes were coming in below the sales price, the buyer was having to pay the difference in price. Let me give you an example again. Let's say we're buying the home for $600,000. The appraisal came in at $530,000. The buyer was literally on the hook for that $70,000. Now at that point, I was setting expectations with all my clients and letting them know that this was a very real possibility. So a lot of home buyers were very prepared to pay that difference, but that's a huge chunk of money. If you're buying a home that needs work, for instance, that $70,000 could go basically to most of the remodel, right? So it's a lot of money that you could be losing potentially on top of the down payment, on top of closing costs, on top of inspections. It was a lot. And now that's no longer happening. I don't want to jinx myself, but over the last few months from Q4 of 2022 up until now, my clients' home have been appraising at sales value or a smidge higher. And by a smidge higher, I mean they'll probably close with $3,000 or $4,000 of equity. So nothing crazy, but luckily we're not coming in so far below appraised value anymore. Step 10 is our walkthrough. This is a super quick one, but before closing, we go to the home, take 15 to 20 minutes to look around, make sure that the repairs are done, make sure there's nobody living in the home that's not supposed to be, and we basically want to make sure that the home is in the same condition as we last saw it. A walkthrough, like I mentioned, typically takes about 15, 20 minutes, and that's it. After we do our walkthrough, then we can have our closing, which is typically in the title company. Once all the documents are signed, we hang out in the title company for a little bit. The title company sends the documents to the lender. Lender sends the money to the title company, and then the title company disperses the money to the selling party. And then that brings us to step 12, which is you get your keys. I'd say 90 to 95% of the time, you can typically get your keys same day, and you can move in same day too. I wouldn't plan for it though, because it can get a little stressful and a little cumbersome sometimes if anything doesn't go exactly as planned. So if you're thinking about moving same day, I would encourage you to aim to move maybe a couple days later, just in case. Step 12B, I don't want to say 13 because that's bad luck, but 12B is to move. Once you have your keys, you've closed out your home, you can move and do whatever you want. You can paint everything, remodel or not, or just move. But whatever floats your boat. And this brings me to our fourth and final question, which I get asked all the time because so many of my clients are from out of state. But people often ask, do we have to be present to look at homes and close on our home? And the answer is no. Because I do have a lot of clients that move to Austin from out of state, I'm often doing video tours, and we also do remote closings. Basically, the title company sends a notary to either your home or your work or coffee shop, restaurant, whatever, and they have the documents for you to sign. You sign, they get shipped back to Austin, and then the whole closing process happens where the money is distributed around, and then you still get your keys. It might be a few days later, but you will still get your keys. So short answer is you don't have to be in Austin to look at homes, and you also don't have to be in Austin physically to sign your paperwork at closing. So that concludes our video for the home buying process in 2023. Buying a home today in Austin is completely different and way less stressful than it was in 2021 and 22. We have a lot more options now, and there is a lot less competition. I would almost say none, depending on the home. I really hope this video was helpful for you. If you're thinking about buying a home in Austin in 2023, leave a comment. You can also call, text, email, send me a message on Instagram, or set up a direct Zoom call with me. We can go over all of your questions. I'm Daphne Quay, your boss lady realtor here in Austin, Texas. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.